I was pleasantly surprised that the man known as Zed, the producer of the music for Dragon Ball Daima's intro and outro, was rocking a shirt from the Geekdom 101 store. That means that he is a member of the Geek Army. Somebody who worked on Daima is a member of the Geek Army. And guess what? You can get this too. Right now, back in the Geekdom 101 store, the vintage Dragon Ball Super Mario Bros. 3 Fusion merch. You can get shirts, hoodies, different types of styles. You can get an art piece, and it ships anywhere in the world, almost anywhere, in various colors and sizes. Only available for a limited time. Do not wait. Get yours today. The link will be down below. Dragon Ball Daima Episode 9 is called Thieves, following up with a very well-received and great episode with Episode 8, where we had like a good mix of this phenomenal fight on one hand and this new lore expansion on the other, and the plot continuing. Would Episode 9 follow suit? Episode 9 of Dragon Ball Daima is really the tale of two episodes, meaning that the first half of this episode and the second half of this episode were really different. Totally different vibe, and not necessarily in a bad way, although I do have my criticisms, and I'll get to them here on this review. So hang on tight, leave a comment, of course, with your thoughts on the episode, as well as don't forget to leave a like on this review. So the first half of this episode was in many ways more like the early Dragon Ball, the early Daima stuff. I'm not going to say it's a slice of life type of thing, although there were elements of that, but it felt very much like an episodic adventure involving the 3-star Dragon Ball being stolen by some thieves and Goku going to retrieve them. And I'll go more into detail on that a little bit here in just a moment. Now, the second half of the episode is where things actually got interesting, and that is Vegeta's, not only his arrival in the Demon Realm, but actually meeting up with Goku, and there's some action. We saw Vegeta kick a lot of rear end in this episode. If you're a Vegeta fan, you're finally going to get what you want from Vegeta in this episode, because there's, he's just a beast in this episode. And besides just that, the last part of this episode has a very ominous cliffhanger, because the new Majin Buu that was teased last week, created by Marva, is finally complete. Now, if you've been following the leaks here on the channel, if you've been following the spoilers we've been covering literally all year, but specifically about 3 months ago, September 14th, you know of what this is. And this is, of course, Majin Cou. I don't want to go into any more spoilers if you don't want to be spoiled, but there's a lot more to come with this whole Marva Arinsu plot, okay? If you've seen the leaks, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I'm not going to go into details about what happens later, but I will tell you that this Majin Cou was indeed created from Saibai-Man seeds. And it's Saibai-Man in the dub, Saibai-Man in the Japanese, because I believe Saibai means like root or something like that. I covered that a while ago and I forgot what it meant. There's a pun there. But what happens is, Rinsu has these Saibai-Man seeds and it mixes it with like the other ingredients to create this Majin Buu, and we have the birth of Majin Cou, who is being voiced by Tomokazu Seki. So that is the next big threat, one of the big threats that Dr. Rinsu is cooking up. So in many ways, the first half of this episode, I think people are going to complain about, because it feels like it wasn't necessary, and part of me kind of agrees. When it comes to like thievery in Dragon Ball, like the Dragon Balls being stolen, this is a very common thing that we see in the series, going all the way back to the OG Dragon Ball era into Dragon Ball Z. Yamcha's trying to steal them from Goku, Pilaf's trying to steal them. That's kind of how things were. And then even in Z, with like the Namek arc, you've got like Vegeta and then Gohan and Krillin and Frieza all trying to get their hands on the balls. So people stealing Dragon Balls from each other is a classic Dragon Ball story. It's nothing new here. However, I felt like it maybe was a bit unnecessary. I had fun with it. It wasn't boring or anything. But again, we're talking about a series that's 20 episodes. I think at this time, they should use their time a little bit more wisely. Now, the Vegeta stuff in the second half, I loved. And if it were up to me, I think I would have probably given more shine to Vegeta in this episode. Like, if it were up to me, because Goku's been the center of everything going back to episode 1, and yes, he is the main character, but I would have preferred it if Goku maybe went to the hotel, because they go to a hotel, like Goku, Glorio, Pansy, and Shin. They go to a hotel to like spend the night or whatever before they move on with their quest, and then Vegeta arrives. I would have preferred if maybe Goku went to sleep, they cut out the stuff with the thieves, and they sort of made the whole episode about Vegeta. I would have liked that a little bit more. Again, you have to remember, if this series was like 30 episodes or even like 27, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but I wanted a bit more shine on Vegeta, but he did get plenty of it in the second half. Ultimately, the second half of this episode really was the shining point. I think a lot of folks will probably agree with that when they see it, if they haven't yet. The first half was not like terrible or anything like that. We did find out that Pansy has a tracking device on the Dragon Balls, so they're kind of impossible to steal at this point. And we were also reminded that Goku oftentimes will get up in the middle of the night just to go train, because why not? I mean, he's he's Goku, man. That's what he does. So the plot is moving, maybe not as fast as I would have preferred it, or many of you would have preferred it. But like I said, the last half of this episode, the second half of it, I thought used its time very wisely. My thing is, with these upcoming battles, especially with Majin Cou and whatever else comes down the pipeline, I want them to have more time. Granted, I think we're going to see a lot of fights similar to the fight we had with Tamagami 3, where they're not going to be super long, maybe half of an episode, or maybe, you know, a piece of an episode. And it's definitely not the same as how things were back in the Dragon Ball Z era, when you had a lot of fights go 2, 4, sometimes 8 or more episodes. I mean, Goku versus Frieza goes on forever in the Z portion of the series in the anime. Now, in the manga, it's much faster. So I think with Daima, they're trying to match it up more with the manga type of pacing than the anime when it comes to the fights specifically. The important thing is that the key fights coming up in the last half of the show, they have to deliver. They have to. I'm not one of those guys that only cares about fights in Dragon Ball. I watch it for a lot of different reasons. The characters, the comedy, just the animation, the music. I like a lot of different things about the series. So it's not just that, but it is ultimately an action-adventure show. That's what it is. I mean, you can't deny it, with some comedy. So, you know, the fights have to deliver. So I think the important thing is the big final fight, or the final few fights, have to really knock it out of the park. And we're going to obviously be witness to that early next year, in the first quarter of next year, when we get there. One of the things that you should be aware of is that Majin Cou's design is a little goofy looking. It's kind of supposed to be like that because this is not the final boss. This is not going to be like, you know, the battle with Kid Buu, where everybody was like desperate to beat this guy, and that's not how this is going to go down. So I think Toriyama was making him look goofy on purpose, because this is just sort of a wannabe. Like, this is not going to be anywhere near the terrifying power of the original Majin Buu. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to be like a situation where this thing blows up a whole planet or anything like that, like what Buu did. This is just going to be, in many ways, a counterfeit Buu. That's the way it was described to me back over the summer. So that remains to be seen as far as how much of a challenge they'll actually be, especially with Goku and Vegeta now being together in the Demon Realm, even though they're not quite together just yet. But yeah, the first half, like, Goku has this funny little bear hat on, and again, it's all sort of like I mentioned slice of life. It's not really that, but it sort of is. It's sort of like a mix, a caper. Let's just call it a caper. The guys who stole the Dragon Balls from Goku and them, or the Dragon Ball, I may have said balls there, I meant to say 3-star ball. That's their names, as far as I've seen, their official names are Gargoyle and Werewolf. I don't know if they're gonna change the name for the dub or maybe give them different names later on, but that's the names that I was told about many months ago. I saw it. And so these two guys, as you can see in the next episode preview, they steal the Dragon Balls, go off to this cave. Pansy gives Goku the tracking device. He goes to find them. That's pretty much it. I mean, that's essentially the whole first half of this episode. A little bit of comedy, a little bit of a caper, try to slow things down from last week, and then we move on to the Vegeta part. So what ends up happening is those same guys from Daima episode 3, the ones that stole Glorio's ship, steal, it's the same exact thing happens to Vegeta. They steal their ship, the one that King Kadon gave to them that Hybis was piloting. And it shows this like flashback of what happened, and we see Vegeta in like a nightclub. I'm not even making this up. Vegeta, this is so, I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd ever see this. Vegeta in a nightclub, right? They get into a little brawl. Again, I don't want to say Star Wars, but it reminds me of that scene in Attack of the Clones where Obi-Wan's in that nightclub, that bar, and that guy wants to buy death sticks. It wasn't quite like that, but it gave me those vibes. Vegeta beats them up, and in return, it's like what happened with Goku. They steal the ship. That's their payback. You beat us up, we're going to steal your ship. So another big plot point that I think moved the story along is that Goma now knows that the people he turned to kids on Earth are now in the demon realm and they're coming for Dende. So Goma's getting really upset at this, and Degasu for a minute kind of looks like he's afraid. So this could be a situation where Goma's kind of like Garlic Jr. in that he's got the little runt form, played up for laughs, little short guy, and then when he gets mad, you know, maybe he gets really big and strong, or he's definitely a magic user. So it could be a thing where maybe Degasu's not afraid of Goma's like physical strength, but afraid of the kind of magic he wields. They have talked numerous times in Daima about Goma being a very powerful magician. We do have a scene where Goku meets up with Vegeta, so we have all 8 of them together, albeit not forever. Vegeta wants to get in Glorio's ship, or, well, King Kadon's ship, but they can't fit, so Pansy wants to go call her dad to bring them a new ship, since the other one was, Vegeta's other ship was stolen, the one that Hybis took with him. So then Goku just leaves, and Vegeta gets mad. He just takes off because they have to go to Warp Sama to get to Demon World 2. But then, as luck would have it, the guys from the nightclub or the bar show up wanting to fight Vegeta. Of course, Vegeta would be more than happy to kick their ass again. Vegeta just embarrasses these guys. He's in his base form, no need to transform. Piccolo does a little bit at the end, but he just goes in and just smashes these dudes up. I mean, and they deserve it because remember, these guys also stole Glorio's ship, and I was wondering if Goku and them were ever going to run into them again and sort of avenge the fact that they stole the ship, but Vegeta's the one that gets to get the, he gets the satisfaction for the audience. We as the audience finally get to see those guys get beaten up again, this time for stealing the ship. I like the fact that these dudes are basically picking fights and doing criminal activity, but they always get their comeuppance. They always end up getting beaten up by someone from the main cast. So they do get their ship back, so there's no need to wait for any more ships from King Kadon. And I was glad because if they had to wait for another ship, it would have slowed this down even more. So in the final part of the episode, it's the creation of Majin Cou. Marba actually talks about how, well, they have Cyberman seeds, and she says that the little bit that Arinsu got of Majin Buu is just not enough to make it chemically work. So they throw in the Cyberman seed to kind of help this monster grow. I know it sounds like Rita Repulsa, but that's what happens here. Now, when it comes to the Cyberman seeds, right, you know, we talked about this a little bit earlier, and I did talk about this in the video from September 14th, where we talked about Majin Cou in the leak. It appears like Dr. Arinsu has Cyberman seeds. Now, does that mean that the Cybermen are from the demon realm? Well, they have pointy ears. Does it mean that she stole them from a Saiyan? Are the Saiyans tied into the demon realm? That's been speculation for a while. None of that is revealed yet. So I don't know. And I'm being genuine here. I don't know what the tie-ins are with all that just yet. But if they reveal the Cybermen are from the demon realm, then that just makes sense because they have the pointy ears. But again, we go down that road of well as everyone from the demon realm, the Namekians, Kais, the Cybermen. Like, there's so many people. Majin Buu. It just feels like they're maybe going a bit too much with this demon realm stuff. I like the lore, but it's sort of becoming monotonous. However, I'm not going to judge it yet. I'm going to wait and see what they explain. But it's like a Cyberman mixed with Kid Buu. I mean, he looks a little tiny bit maybe like some of the shadow dragons, like the fire dragon. A little tiny bit, but not a lot. It just really looks like a fusion of a Cyberman and Kid Buu. Like, that's the way I see it. As simple as it gets. And really, that's what's in the cauldron, so it makes sense. So Dr. Arinsu tells Majin Cou to go take out Tamagami 1 and get the Dragon Ball. Now, I have been talking about this on the Super Magic Show. You've been paying attention. I've said that there's a fight coming up where one of the Tamagamis faces off against a character that has not been revealed yet. I've been talking about this on streams and maybe even a few reviews, that the Tamagamis don't just fight Goku and them, that they're going to fight somebody else. And here you go. So she wants the demonic Dragon Balls for herself. She wants Cou to defeat Tamagami 1 and take that Dragon Ball. So obviously Goku's probably going to get the Tamagami 2 first. Maybe, I guess we'll see what happens, but things are finally starting to move as we have these different factions. Rinsu wants the Dragon Balls. Goku and them want the Dragon Balls. Glorio's the mole. Goma. Like, this is the stuff I wanted from Daima. This is what I'm into. They're all going to do battle for the Dragon Balls, and hopefully starting with next week's episode 10 all the way to the finale, we get a lot less of these guys sleeping in motels and, a little bit of comedy's okay. I mean, obviously it makes sense. We'll probably get some more lore in Demon World 2, especially with Piccolo there, and them learning about the Namekians and the Glins and all that. So we'll get more of that, I think. But now things are starting to really move. So that's good. I'll go more into all this with a breakdown tomorrow. Right now on your screen is a video I dropped recently about the creation of Dragon Ball Z, how Dragon Ball Z was created, plus Cell versus Deborah, who would actually win, plus a very special interview on Sunday with the voice of Piccolo Mini from the dub of Daima. Join us live. Your questions will be asked. I love you. Take care.